Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever part of the day. We are happy to be part of your day today here at Surviving Life's Pickles. Thank you for tuning in. I am Scott Martin, your host, sitting here today with my lovely wife, Hillary.
Hello, everybody.
And we have today Mikey Julian joining us today.
Howdy.
How are you today, Mikey?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful Saturday morning. We appreciate you coming down and hanging out with us for a little while.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely enjoy the conversation.
but before we get into Mikey and his story and what we're going to sit down and talk about today, we start every episode off with gratitude. And I am going to hit Hillary up today and have her start us out.
I'm grateful for my family. And I know I've said this probably plenty of times, but it just overflows today. And I'm so grateful for my grandma. I got the pleasure of being able to do her hair, and I get to do it about every 3 weeks. And I am so grateful that I get that amount of time, that just short little amount of time to get to know her, make her feel better about herself, make her feel beautiful again, and to just sit and talk and hear her stories. I It just overflows me with gratitude that I still have the opportunity to do that. And my cute little, she's going to be 90 this year, so she's just a sweet, sweet woman. And
Some of those last moments
yeah,
that you cherish the very most with them, because you do get that one-on-one time to do it.
I do, and I cherish every moment of it.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
mm.
Well, Mikey, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
Well, I'm grateful for my support system. My family's been really pushing on me to be more involved with them. And so I'm grateful that they're taking action in that and kind of trying to loop me in more stuff because that wasn't the case years ago. And so it's nice that they're putting an effort in to connect and stay in touch. I'm also really grateful. One of the things that I'm always strongly connected to is being on this planet, being the opportunity to experience all the wonder and the amazing things that are on this earth, along with the people that are involved with it. All of that just kind of just blows my mind. It's incomprehensible of how amazing the planet is and being out and enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with you 100%. That was
Yeah.
very beautifully put.
Mhm. Well, for me, I've kind of got a two-part. The first one is I am really grateful for our dogs.
Oh,
Yeah. Hanging out this week, being home, not working this week. It's nice to have that companionship. It's nice to see that they're always smiling. They are just so happy all of the time, and they just bring joy.
unconditional love.
And if I just need to sit and relax, they understand that, and they can sit down and they relax with me. And we just have that connection just by hanging out, just by talking, sitting there, petting them,
Talking to them because we talk
talking to them.
animals.
And I don't get any negative feedback when I talk to them. So my second part is kind of goes along with yours, is just being here on Earth and being part of the human experience. Because yesterday I was able to take our oldest son. We went and seen the new Superman movie.
Ah,
And one of the lines in that movie, Superman says, "I am as human as you are. I put one foot in front of the other every day and experience things the way you do." And that really hit to me that we are all just human. We are all just here. We all walk the same way. We all process the same way. We're all connected.
mm,
And I'm extremely grateful to be part of that experience and be part of such a huge network
mhm.
of people,
Yeah.
and just be able to learn from other people and help other people and just be part of this revolving human evolution and the cycle of love.
It's a good one, babe.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, everybody, we've got Mikey here today, and I'm pretty excited. We haven't really dove into, with a lot of our guests yet, into substance abuse other than maybe just their experience. Mikey is a licensed substance abuse counselor. Is that the proper way to say it?
Right.
And so this is what he does on a day-to-day basis. But he didn't go to school thinking he wanted to be a substance abuse counselor. He had life experience that kind of led you into this field? I don't think any little kid is 3 or 4 or 5 years old and say, I want to be a substance abuse counselor. I don't think that's a sought after
Maybe if
career
their
path.
parents were, but yeah,
Possibly.
that's
None of
hard.
us raise our hand and say we want to be an addict either.
Yeah.
It's very, very true.
That's a
Very
great
true.
idea.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to grow up and do that.
Right. And so I'm really excited to be able to learn a little bit about your story, how that led into, and dive into a little bit deeper into substance abuse and the things that you see on a day-to-day basis so we can pass some more information on to people. So with that, Mikey, wherever you want to start, whatever you think is relevant to that story, let's just kind of start at the beginning, a little bit of your childhood and just kind of run through of how you ended up in this space.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start with the family of origin. I'm the youngest of 6 kids,
Oh.
raised in the Upper East Side of Holiday in Salt Lake. We didn't belong there. My dad worked 3 jobs, barely made the mortgage, was always skimping and trying to fix things instead of buying new stuff. And so we kind of were fish out of water in that environment. But there's also a 10-year gap between the oldest and the youngest. And so by the time I became basically aware of the situation in my life, my older siblings are already moving on and out of the house. And so didn't really have a strong relationship to them. And my brother was my hero. He's 3 years older than me. And so he's, faster, stronger, quicker, smarter, and, all these things. And so I'd always try to hang out with him. And, he was a lot, he had a lot of ability to cut corners and break rules, and then he could talk his way out of it. I wasn't that good at it, but, he really kind of sculpted me with a lot of stuff. And as I grew up, the difficulty just started to add up. I was kind of feeling like I was forgotten by the time I started getting into, running the neighborhood, they pretty much had given up.
Mm.
They'd heard everything, they were done everything. They were just kind of like going through the motions. It felt like I didn't realize that till later, but and I was, I grew up in the early 80s as a young kid and, late 70s, early 80s, where the parents would just say, be back by dark when the streetlights come on, come home. But
Right.
other than that, we ran the neighborhood, which wasn't really the smartest move, but parents didn't care back then. It felt safe to do so.
Right.
And so I spent a lot of time hanging out with my best friend and up at his house and really didn't spend a lot of, other than doing my chores and coming home on time, that's all my requirements were, which developed a lifestyle of selfishness and self-centeredness and just kind of me, me, me. So moving forward, there was a lot of unspoken. My family did not talk. There was stuff going on in the family system before I was really cognizant of what it meant. But my family never discussed it. And so anyway, I got to the point where I was running the neighborhood at 3 a.m., sneaking out of the house and running around the neighborhood and dodging cops and just kind of living
The way you wanted to.
yeah, recklessly and just having fun and doing whatever I wanted. And, at that point, the rules in the house didn't matter. And I was getting grounded a lot. And um, I ran like that till I was 14. And that's when I got my first taste of drugs and alcohol. Actually, it was my brother. He had some friends that were the greatest influence. They lived a few doors down and they had a really weird family system. But they went out in the woods by my house and met up with them, and they were, hanging out there. And they gave me my first beer. I'd take a drink and it tasted nasty. And, it was like, ugh, gross. And they gave me my first cigarette. I took a hit off that cigarette, turned green, coughed my guts out. They laughed at me. They just like, stick with it. It'll get better. It did. And that was the beginning of my drug and alcohol use. It was more recreational and kind of peer pressure. Just, I wanted to be like the cool older kids and hang out with them.
Your brother was part of that group too, as well.
He was, but then shortly after that, he disappeared out of the group, went on a mission, and, completely flipped 180 and went another direction. So, I was left with, nothing else but to hang out with these guys. And that led me into, heading kegger parties in the canyon and sloughing school. And so it just started this process of, living a lifestyle that wasn't healthy. And there was a lot of pride in the fact that I was, you'd see it on TV shows and you're like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to be one of those guys.
Mm.
And hung out with those guys. And then I started developing my own friend group within the stoner community and started hanging out with them. By the time I was 15, I was already pretty well into a drug addiction. I was smoking pot, drinking beer. And at that point, I'd started getting myself into trouble with the law and sneaking out of the house, getting caught by the cops at 3 a.m. And, they call it truancy. And I got myself into a lot more trouble when I started hanging out with a bad influence person. And the two of us had this great idea to go around the neighborhood and car hop,
Mm.
just break into cars and steal whatever we could, spare change, blah, blah. And we weren't really doing it because we needed to, make the money or anything. It was more of just we were bored and reckless and stupid and started to doing stuff.
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he me and him were doing that a lot every night just as a pastime so we could stay out, hang out. And then one night he picked me up in a car and said, hey, we're going to go to a party in Sugar House. And so jumped in the car, we went to the party and got hammered. And on the way back, he was driving and ran a stop sign, and there was a cop sitting at the stop sign just as we blew through it. And he tried to outrun him and turned into a cul-de-sac. And I was too drunk to run away, so he ran off, and I got caught. We got charged with, car prowl because we had a bunch of crap in the car, and we got caught in a stolen car.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that started my juvenile career. So from that point, I just kept, I got put into juvenile detention center and sat there for a while. And then I got out and went back to the parents' house. And that started the life of, basically a life of crime. I was breaking rules, trying to get away with stuff because I learned how to be a better criminal in juvie detention. Yeah.
Right.
And so the people I was hanging out with weren't really good role models, and a lot of broken hearts and broken families involved in that too. So, um, so after that, I started hanging out with more people that were doing drugs and committing crimes, and just small stuff though. We weren't too crazy, but we were stealing lawnmowers from the neighborhood and stealing bikes and trying to make our bikes the best bikes in the neighborhood. Just doing random, crazy, stupid stuff. And I kept getting caught, here and there. And at one point, it got to the point where the police had arrested me enough that I went into the court, and the judge told my parents that if they can't control me, the court will,
Mm.
and gave the parents an ultimatum that if they couldn't manage me, they had to bring me to detention. And they didn't manage me. I was too wily and too slippery, and I would get out and run around the neighborhood again. And they finally caught me and put me in. And my parents took me to detention and dropped me out. And from there, um, I spent a little bit of time in detention, and they let me go on a probation period for juveniles. And at that point, I'd made my mind up that I wasn't playing the court's game. So I had also met a girl. By this time, I was in junior high, and I'd met a girl and started my first relationship, which was based on just, I'd sneak out, I'd go over to her house and hang out in her bedroom all night, and then leave her bedroom and go back to my house and sneak into my bedroom and wake up in time to go to school.
Yeah.
And then I'd sleep through school. I'd pass out in my classes or something because I was so tired. But I was doing that almost every night. And I started running away from home because I didn't want to live by the family's rules and the court's rules. And I kept getting tracked down and caught. And then finally they put me on youth services.
What age was that when you got put in there?
I was about 15 and a half.
15. Okay.
Yeah. And by that time, me and the girl had broken up. She had broken my heart, and I was already angry and pissed off. So I was out running around trying to get vengeance on me, I guess. And so that's when I entered into youth services and juvenile correction system. And that started with a shelter home because I couldn't live with my parents, and they put me in a shelter home. And the shelter home was way out in the middle of nowhere. That's before they had built the Salt Lake Valley up with houses. And so it was a house in the middle of this giant field of nothing. And it's like, go ahead, run away. I dare you.
Ah.
And so I didn't stay there for too long before they moved me into a foster home. And that first foster home was really, they didn't pay attention to the kids, and so it really wasn't good. I just kept doing the same thing, run away, sneak out, and, the foster parents would call the caseworker and say, "We can't control him," and
Mm.
so they picked me up, and I kept getting caught with, possession charges and stuff as a juvenile, and it just kept started building and building and building, and, at that point, they put me in a deeper level of youth corrections and put me in a group home in downtown Salt Lake, and I stayed there for a year and a half.
Rules a little bit stricter in that group home, a little bit harder to get out.
Yeah, and there was a threat of going to detention if you didn't follow the rules, so there was some leverage to hold me in place,
Yeah.
and, so we just kind of tried to live our life as best we could and follow the rules, but, it wasn't that easy, because I didn't know how to live life, really. I was just running amok, and I moved from foster home from the group home back into my parents' house, and, again, it only lasted a limited time because I would get caught with possession or something and put in detention again, and that just cycle just repeated. I got put in a couple other foster homes. The first one, the foster parents weren't really they had so many kids, they weren't really able to keep track of us too well and didn't really they were just basically it felt like they were just collecting that paycheck and
Yeah.
just kind of how warehousing kids. And so we would sit around and just chat and talk about how we're gonna, what crimes we're gonna commit and what things we can do. And so we were left kind of,
Mhm. Just on your own again.
kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we would go to school and hang out in the mandatory classes we had to go to, and then come back and just hang out and, do drugs. And they really weren't paying attention that we were getting high in the backyard or anything. And so, and then I ran away again, and got put in a different foster home, and this one was really brutal. The parents were strict, and the father of the foster parent, he beat the crap out of me one night because one of their renters had some money coming up missing, and one of the other foster kids that was in there said it was me.
Hmm.
And, I told them over and over it wasn't me. It didn't do it. And they didn't believe me because the older boy was, telling them that it was me and he
Yeah.
watched me do it. Well, it was him that actually stole the money, but he was throwing me under the bus. And
Yeah.
that's when the father beat the crap out of me. And he left me in the bedroom with my roommate. And I told my roommate, I'm out. And I packed a bag and I jumped out the window and took off, went on the streets for a while. So I was basically homeless and on the run, living in West Valley at the time and running around and, sleeping in people's backyards and stuff.
So
How
you
old?
were what, like 16, 17
Yeah.
at this point?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And because I got caught in that car when I was a younger kid, the juvenile correction system said I couldn't have a driver's license till I was 19.
Hmm.
They
Okay.
wouldn't give it to me because
Yeah.
of the judge's order. So there's no way I was going to be driving anywhere unless I stole a car, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was just running around on the streets and living on the streets for a while at a young age. And at that point, I had been out on the street for 4 months. And then I finally called my caseworker and said, "Hey, I can't do this no more." I got scared
Yeah.
and decided to turn myself in basically.
Mhm.
And she talked to me about what happened in the foster home. I told them everything that happened. And they said, "Okay, well, we're going to find a different placement for you." And they put me in a different place. And this foster home was pretty good. It was not too far from the other one, but it was a former sheriff
Oh.
was the father, and he was an alcoholic. He drank all day long. But he was a retired construction guy as well. He had a construction business, and he just basically hung out with us and kind of was a little bit of a role model. And it wasn't bad. It was a good place. And I still did drugs and got in trouble a little bit, but he was very helpful and very kind about it. He was strict, but he was kind.
Mhm.
And I stayed there until I was 19, till I terminated from juvenile corrections. So yeah, I mean that didn't stop my use or
Just slowed it down a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, he did. He definitely kept an eye on me a little bit more because he was retired. He didn't have to go anywhere, and he'd say, "Hey, let's jump in the truck and go, over here and that." And so he stayed pretty close to me a little bit.
Kind of gave you more attention,
Yeah,
it sounds like.
and his wife was a lovely woman. She was there all a homemaker. She stayed home and she took care of the house, and she did a damn good job of that.
Hmm.
So She was loving and kind, and she would often stand up and defend us to him and say, "No, no, we're not doing that punishment. It's not fair." And so she would level things out.
Yeah.
It was a good place.
Well, I like how you're using the word kind to describe them, because that gives me a better visual about what type of people they were. You can say nice.
Mm.
You're like, oh, people can be nice and not mean it. But when you say kind, it comes from a place of compassion, kind of a place of love, and they were trying to give that to you, is what I'm getting from you as you're telling the story. So that's pretty great that your last experience was like that. You lived with these people who were compassionate, who did care, and did their very best to kind of help you grow through that last part of your teenage years.
Yeah, he was very, very understanding. Like I say, he had a lot of rules, but he was also very understanding, and she leveled him out well, and so they had a good relationship.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what happened after you decided to move out? You are now officially on your own. Did the path continue?
Yeah. Well, I went back to my parents' house at 19, and the goal was to get a job, move myself into independence, which I didn't do well. I got a job, and I was at that point, I had been introduced. Shortly before that, I was introduced because I'd partied a lot, right, in this time, and I was at a party. It was a Jungle Juice party.
Hmm.
For those that don't know what that is, it's just a bunch of liquor with a bunch of fruit juice and fruit stuffed into a garbage can and let it ferment for a bit. Everyone drink it. But I was at a Jungle Juice party, and my friend came up to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna get some Coke." And I said, "Sure, I'm in." And I'd done thousands of lines of cocaine up to that point, but when they brought the cocaine back, they didn't do lines; they freebased it,
Mm.
and that was my first hit of basically crack cocaine, freebase cocaine. And the second I took that hit and the smoke left my mouth, I felt that rush, and I went, "Oh crap,
Mm.
I'm screwed." And yeah, I was. And so that's what started me on an addiction with crack cocaine. And at that point, I was living at my mom's house and at my parents' house, and I was working at a pizza place, and I was a heavy crack addict. So became an assistant manager and the night manager of that place. I'd been there long enough, and then I started stealing from the till, feeding my friends pizza so they bring over their drugs and hang out with me. And so I got caught with that. I got fired, of course, and I really kind of blew an opportunity there because the manager was a really cool guy, and he had a plan, and he had kind of an idea of setting me up with a career for life in a different environment, and had offered me this opportunity to go down and learn a trade, and I pissed it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that put me back out on the streets again, and I started couch surfing with some of the drug buddies, and that only lasts a little bit of time before I'm on my own again. And so I started struggling, and finally went back to my mom and dad's and kind of hung out with them for a little bit. And my dad had at that point had an idea, and he said, "Why don't we go down and talk to these people in a city building downtown?" And it was for Job Corps.
Okay.
And so, which I'd never heard of ever in my life. And they talked me into joining and signing up for Job Corps. And so I went to Clearfield Job Corps Center and got my GED, my high school diploma, went and got it trained as an auto mechanic, and then went into the diesel certification program and got certified as a diesel mechanic.
Okay.
Well, the whole time I was there in Job Corps, which was a really great thing. I mean, it gave me a career. I had no
Yeah.
path. I mean, I was like thinking, oh, McDonald's my best shot. And well, I actually thought I was going to be John Gotti, kind of a drug dealing kingpin, but I was awful at that. But I got this career, and at Job Corps, I was actually local, so I was allowed to go home on home visits once I earned a certain level, which just meant I could stop at my dealer's house, buy a bunch of dope, and bring it up and sell it for money at Job Corps.
Mhm.
And so I had developed myself as a drug dealer on the campus, and which was scary because it's federal land, and if you get caught, it's a federal charge.
Right.
And so, but I got through that and graduated and got a job right out. They had this OJT where you would work for a company and then step right into a job afterwards, which I did. And so I bounced from that job. I got fired for being disrespectful to one of the truck drivers. I didn't jump to when they needed fuel and stuff, and I just got terminated immediately. I was like blown away. But I went and got another job for another trucking company, and I worked there for a while. And I started living with the owner's son, and uh, totaled his car without his permission.
Oh no.
And that got me
Wow.
fired from that job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify a little bit for people who are not familiar with Job Corps, from my understanding of Job Corps, it is kind of a school, but you also get to go live there. Like it's a campus. You live there, you go to school there, you eat there. It's kind of your home as you're going to school.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah. And most of the people that are there when I was in Job Corps were court ordered.
Yeah.
Right.
So you either go to Job Corps or you go to jail.
Yeah. It's kind of an alternative of, hey, you know what? These guys have potential.
Yeah.
Versus some of the other ones were like, no, we're just going to put them in jail. They see the potential in you. They see that, hey, you know, they're trying. And so they try to put you in a situation to give you the skills to succeed.
Yeah. And there's age limit. It's for young kids.
Yeah.
I think at the time it was 22 or something. Anybody over 20, no one was
Really?
over that.
Okay.
So it was young kids that, you know, anywhere from 16 to 22, I think.
Okay.
And a lot of them were coming from, you know, all over the country. And so they would get shipped to the farthest one away from their home half the time.
Yeah.
And so you had all kind of culture stuff going on inside the dorms, and the dorms were massive.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be like, I think 40 or 50 people in the dorms, and one resident advisor taking care.
Oh, wow. So they were a little overwhelmed too.
Yeah.
But so you went out, you say you had a couple jobs. You were a full-size diesel mechanic, correct? Then, okay. Did you continue down that after you wrecked the boss's car and stuff?
Well, I moved from, I did work for the bus company once, but I went more into automotive after that.
Okay.
Because it was easier to get away with being a functioning addict.
Right.
In the diesel industry, a lot of places required drug testing, and it was harder to get employed because of that. But in automotive, you know, the local mom and pop shop, I could just walk in, throw up my toolbox, and start going to work.
Right.
And so I became a functioning addict. You know, I would show up to work, do my job, and go home, and then I'd party all the time. And so there were very times I'd come in late, or I'd, you know, call in sick because I was hungover or whatever. But I was a functioning addict by far. And I continued to get in trouble with the law throughout all that. And so at age 18, I got put in Salt Lake County Jail for the first time. I'd barely turned 18. And it was because I had gotten caught with a pot pipe up Mill Creek Canyon with my friend. We were just trying to get high. And that was my first possession charge that as an adult.
Okay.
And then I got caught again, and you know, I went to warrant, and I didn't listen to them. I was like, it's no big deal.
Oh, bother.
Yeah. And so, and then I got caught, when I was working for La Bus. I was still high on crack cocaine. I got caught for fraud. It was a sticky situation between the owner's son who worked there and me, because we were both crack addicts, and he owed me money in for dope. And he said, just go to the auto parts store and get parts for your van that I had at the time, and I'll take care of it. And he never took care of it. And when the question came up of who bought these parts, he just like, oh, he did.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And so I got a theft by deception charge, and they put me back into Salt Lake County Metro, the old original jail. And I sat in there for 6 months while I fought that and lost, basically. And that was my first adult jail. Excuse me. I was in there for 6 months, and then I got out on probation. And I was, at this point, a pretty good criminal, to the point that, I mean, I was a horrible criminal.
You got caught all the time.
But I was really good as the criminal after I got caught. I would go through everything exactly the way they wanted me to do it. I was the perfect model inmate and the perfect person on probation, to the point where I knew that if I did everything I was supposed to do quick and fast, they would turn their head and look at the other problem children that they had, and then I could do what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I developed this skill of being really like the model prisoner type of thing and getting away with a lot. And that didn't serve me later on.
Yeah.
And I got picked up with a lot of different times for possession, and I'd be able
Over
to
the
get
years.
probation quickly. I'd, you know, be sentenced to a year of probation, and I'd see my probation officer 3 times, and then he'd never talk to me again.
Yeah. So what's the span kind of, you just told the story about being 18, getting thrown in there. So how many years after that did this continue? And then when was that moment or that time where it's like you realize it's time to stop, or you had that aha moment of I need help?
I used for 21 years nonstop,
Okay.
14 to 35.
Okay.
Um, I had been in and out of the system more than once. I've been homeless on the streets of Utah 3 times. Once as a juvenile and 2 times as an adult. I'd couch surfed. I'd hung out. Paid people rent in their basements. So I'd been living a drug fueled life for 21 years nonstop. There wasn't a day that I wasn't high or drunk unless I was locked up in jail, and I still got it in jail half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used nonstop. I was just always on something. I couldn't stand it if I wasn't. And I moved from crack cocaine and then I went to crank. And crank was a short-lived thing because it really messed me up bad. And so I went back to crack cocaine. I was like, that's better than the crank. Not so smart.
Yeah.
And then I would try the marijuana maintenance program to, this stuff's ruined my life. I'm just going to smoke pot. And that didn't work. So I went back onto drugs and I got off those and I went back to, I'm just going to drink. Alcohol's not really my problem. And I would drink for a while and just be a recreational partier. And then all of a sudden I'm back on crack cocaine. And then someone introduced me to methamphetamine. And that finished up the last 8 years of my run. And I dug a deep hole. I got into recovery on February 11th, 2005, because the sheriff pulled me over and I had expired registration and I had a pile of dope in my car, and he took me to jail because I had warrants and they found the dope. And I had a long list of charges that I'd been dodging at that point. And so when he put me in jail in the new ADC, I was put in jail and I spent over a year in jail, 6 months in ADC. They let me out of jail. I walked down the ramp. There was a sheriff there to arrest me, and he took me to Morgan County for another 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was because I got a pot pipe charge that I never dealt with. And the judge was pissed off. He had a warrant for me and he wanted me to do every day.
Wanted to make an example of you.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I wrote him every month and requested a review, and he, nope.
Denied it every time.
Yeah, not doing it. He actually brought me into the courtroom and said, no way. So I did my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that last stint. Was that when things started to turn around for you? Or did you come back out and?
Well, I got out of jail. I was put into Salt Lake County Felony Drug Court, and they had a lot of rules and boundaries. And if it wasn't for those boundaries, I definitely would have gone off and used, and I would have totally committed more crimes. I was not in a place of even being willing to do a recovery. But they had a lot of requirements, and I went to court. I had 14 felonies and 32 misdemeanors that were stacked up on me because the DA had just been they'd failed to file. I'd get arrested for a charge. They'd put me in jail for 3 days, 72 hours. And if they don't file the charges, they have to let you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that they don't still have a case.
Yeah.
And so they were picking me up for fraud, forgery, all these things. And they just weren't making a case. And then the last time I'd be in jail until the guys, hey guys, I'm only going to be here for a couple of days and then I'll bounce.
Mm-hmm.
They called my name that last time and said, roll up. And I grabbed my stuff and said, see you guys, I'll see you out on the streets. And the guy, instead of handing me, taking me out and exiting me out of the jail and booking me out, he handed me a stack of papers, and each one of them was a charge of court docket saying that you're going to court on it. And it was all those charges I'd been dodging. The DA finally cleared his desk and said, we're doing it all.
Yeah.
So I had 14 felonies, 32 misdemeanors, and multiple judges.
Different counties, different areas.
I didn't have any money. I was a drug addict. And so they gave me a public defender, and she was a miracle.
Wow.
She globalized all my charges, except the judge said, I'm not giving him one judge over all of these. 2 of these felonies have to come out and be separate. So they rolled me into drug court. They globalized all my charges, 12 of those 14 charges, and I had to plead guilty to the other 2 felonies. The judge would not go any lower than that. He's like, he is going to be a felon on this. And so I pled guilty to 2 felonies. I went on to felony probation. They put me into drug court, which is usually, people are usually on that 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And I was out in 13 months.
Oh, so really short.
Yeah. And because I'm a professional at doing
Yeah.
what I need.
Doing everything perfectly.
Yeah. And I got moved out to Utah County because I didn't have a place to live. So I went up to my sister's house when they let me out of jail as the address that they're going to exit me to. And my sister's like, "You're here for 24 hours, then we're putting you in Foothill." Well, Foothill has a 3-month waiting list, and they said, "No way." And my sister's like, "Crap." So we went and got to the bishop. That local bishop gives hotel rooms. I went and got a hotel room from them. And of course, they run warrants, and I had warrants. They arrested me, putting me in Utah County jail, and took me back to Salt Lake County jail.
Oh, man.
And then the judge yelled at me and said, "I'm going to give you one more chance." He says, "If you even think of stepping sideways without my permission, I'm going to make sure you go to prison and you do all the time."
Hmm.
And that was kind of like, yeah, whatever, buddy. Who cares? In my mind.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about it. If I actually had to do 14 felonies, 0 to 5s, back to back, that's a life sentence.
Right.
I'm 35. If it gives me 60 years, the parole board will probably kick me out early, but it's still most of the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah.
At least half of that
Yeah.
is what you would have done.
And then I went back to my cell and I was thinking about it. I'm like, crap. I don't mind going to prison, but I don't want to die there.
No.
Yeah.
And so that was a first shift in my head, in my mind, that things had to be different. And so I started, I went to my case manager and says, "Guess what? You're going to go to 12-step meetings and you're going to take a piece of paper to prove you're going." And I went to my probation officer and he said, "Guess what? You're going to go to 12-step meetings." And I was resentful and hateful about it. And I sat in the 12-step rooms for 6 months, just sat in them. I wasn't doing anything about recovery. I was just checking boxes.
Right.
And I wasn't happy. I was miserable and I didn't want to be in recovery. I had plans to go get high again. I was still an addict, just a dry drunk, more or less.
White knuckling it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, it was a little bit more than that.
Red knuckling it.
Yeah, I was chewing my fingers off, not just my fingernails. I was just miserable.
Yeah.
But I was here in Utah County. I was down at the Palace, the old Palace, not the new one. And an old man walked up to me that's been in the program since, million years. He walked up to me and he says, "I've been watching you and you look happy." I was like, "Who in the hell are you to talk to me like that? Can't you tell I'm angry and miserable? I'm not happy." I was just kind of like blown away that this old man told me that. I was pissed off. And I left right away and went out and jumped in my car and went home. And I laying in my bed in my sister's basement, and a small little bedroom down there. And I was laying on my bed thinking about it and I was mad at him and just kind of dirty old rotten mother. And I kind of thought about it like, well, I no longer have any warrants. The police aren't chasing me. I've got a decent job, which I got through my IOP. I met a guy in OP, gave me a job working as a diesel mechanic in a towing company. I'm like, I got a job. I got a couple bucks in my pocket. My sister's kind of my best friend right now. She's really good. My family will talk to me a little bit. Shit. I might be happy. And the big miracle for me was when I actually said, "Well, what happens if I try? I'm not even trying. I'm actually fighting the system.
Yeah.
And what happens if I actually try to be happy, try to be in recovery?" So I did.
And so that was about a year, you said, after going to meetings, sitting in the back for about a year.
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just about my 6-month mark in drug court and everything. And I exited drug court in 13 months, graduated fastest that anybody's ever seen for a long time there. And I got away with a lot because I can play the system. I had my IOP up here taking credit for half the things I was supposed to do in drug court. They were teaching me up there, but they weren't as rigorous as it would have been in drug court. And the worst part of being in that drug court up here in Utah County is I had no driver's license and they took my car when they arrested me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still on hold because it was suspended. So I'd have to go all the way to Salt Lake because drug court only had one place you could drug test. And every time they called my color, I'd have to go up to Salt Lake on the bus and the tracks. It was a 5-hour round trip every time they called my color. So it was hard to get a job in early recovery because, they're like, "Yeah, we understand. We'll work with you. Just tell us what days." And I'm like,
You don't know.
I don't know till 7 a.m. that morning.
Yeah.
And so I ended up working at Subway sandwiches, which I could ride my bike to. Working for my supervisor, the boss of that shift, was an 18-year-old kid that smoked pot on his break.
Hmm.
And it was hard.
Yeah.
It was humbling. It was annoying and triggering to be working there. But that's where I worked. It's the job I had.
Mm-hmm.
But I jump on a bus and ride a bus to UVU, get on a bus to go to Sandy, get on the tracks, ride it downtown, walk over, pee in a cup, get back on the train, and just reverse the process. And it's a 5-hour round trip. I got
your whole day shot.
Yeah.
I think they do that on purpose.
Well, they don't normally let people live in Utah County and do Salt Lake County drug court. So I was kind of getting away with murder on that.
Yeah.
But it was difficult for me.
Yeah.
But I think that also is a miracle because it gave me a lot of time to reflect and kind of think about how my life needs to change because I'm stuck on a bus for 5 hours, over and over and over. And so it just kind of started trickling into my head. And then I got into recovery and I just started going at it. The one thing that changed everything was a gentleman talking to me about, everyone can knock the bottle out of their hand, but it's keeping the bottle out of your hands the important part. And basically saying anybody can set down their drugs of choice for a limited amount of time, but it's the hard part's staying in recovery.
Right.
And he started talking to me about the principles of the program. My IOP, the guy that owned the place, I've been there so long because I was court ordered.
Mm-hmm.
They're only a 90-day program. I've been there for 6 months or more. And he's like, you should start running groups. You know more than half the counselors running the groups right now. You got a lot of experience. So I did. And at one point he walked in and said, you know what? You should become a drug and alcohol counselor. I sucked at school, dude. No way. He goes, if you go, I'll pay for it.
Oh, wow.
I was like, deal.
Yeah.
Because I'd also determined that one of the reasons I used is because I was a mechanic. The mechanic job was a commission basis only kind of thing. And it was feast or famine. And I sucked at managing money. So there was hard times. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And I signed up, got admitted into the program at University of Utah, and then he filed bankruptcy.
Oh, man.
So, but because I had a good job, I said, fine, I'll pay for it. And so I paid for the classes at University of Utah to get licenses as an LSAC, which is a licensed substance abuse counselor. And when I went and applied for my license through DOPL, Department of Professional Licensing, they said, no way.
Yeah.
You're never going to work with vulnerable populations because of your history. You're not even 2 years sober, and you're asking us to put you in a position like that. And I'm like, yeah. And they said no. And so I had to appeal all the way to the top, the board, the Department of Professional Licensing board. And they brought me in, interviewed me, and set me out in the hall and said, we're going to talk about it. And I sat there for like 2 hours.
Wow.
And I was like, this is intentional to torture me. And it probably was. But then they come out and they said, here's the deal. Well, we're going to give you a license. It's going to be a probationary license. And you're going to be on probation for 5 years. So I had a 5-year state probation. Now I have the licensing probation at the same time.
But at this time, at least you have kind of a purpose and a job, and it's all riding on this new path that you were on. So it's a little bit different, I would imagine.
Yeah. And they told me, said, because of your history, we're only going to allow you to work somewhere where we have a supervisor that we trust.
Okay.
And they had a ton in Salt Lake County, but only 2 in Utah County. I lived in Utah County. And so I chose the one that I knew, I was familiar with, because some of my friends in school had worked at that place. And so I just went and applied, and I've been there for 17 years.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about it here with a few. We've had some great therapists on the show. A lot of them have history in what they went into. And, a few of them haven't had a lot of that history, but it comes down to you've got all that life experience. So it kind of blows me away that they were so resistant to give you that license up front, because you can relate so well with what all these people are doing for. I kind of understand that maybe it was just the 2-year period. They're like, well, he's so new, maybe this isn't going to stick. But at the same time, from my experience talking to people and being in it myself, and those are the ones that really stick, because you're helping the people now because you can relate to them. You have sat in that chair opposite of you. And I think that's pretty powerful. that you were able to realize after this guy kind of coached you, hey, you're really good at running groups. You're really good at this. Let's get you going. And then you kind of realize, hey, this might be a really good fit.
Sure.
So you've been doing this for 17 years now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Kind of,
It's the longest job I've ever had in my life.
wow. It means you enjoy it, hopefully. So that kind of brings down this next part of your story. As you've gone through working with all these people, you've probably seen a lot of things that are very similar to you, I would imagine. Very similar to things you went through, experiences you had. I kind of want to ask the question, and I don't want to put a number on it, but if there's a few things that stand out over the years, I've noticed that every single addict or alcoholic have very similar traits. All of us do very, very similar things. What are a few of those things that really stand out to you that you can see in most of these people that you have worked with?
I think the biggest one is ego and pride.
Okay.
The leveling of the pride is really important, because if I have a head full of, pride, then I'm also going to make bad decisions. And I think that as an addict and alcoholic, I'll use me as an I statement. I started making decisions, and because of my drug use, I was good at justifying, all the crimes I committed. I had a really good justification why I deserved it. They didn't deserve it. I deserved it more than you, or you don't have to have it. And so all those justifications and rationalizations start becoming easier and easier to do. And then all of a sudden it's okay to do all kinds of stupid, crazy stuff that are hurtful to everyone around me and not care. I mean, yeah, I did care a little bit, but I mean, not in the drug field mindset.
And the drugs and alcohol take away all that guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Yep. Just bask it and just keep going.
So on that subject, me and Hillary have talked about this a little bit, but a lot of people get accused of being narcissists who are actually addicts and in it because of, I think, exactly what you're just talking about. It's that pride. It's all selfish. They're all in it. They're justifying everything they can do so they don't want to have to admit what was really going on. I mean, is that a good perception? Do you see that? Maybe family members coming in and calling clients, narcissists and things. And as things develop, they kind of see that, no, it's just actually the addiction that is causing some of those.
A little bit. I mean, a lot of it is just that addicts and alcoholics have been kind of run riot for so long. They don't like being told what to do.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time adjusting into actual society where there's standard agreements that every person in the community agrees to. There's etiquette and niceties that we do where addicts don't really live by those. And so they have to start swallowing their pride, stepping into being more kind and considerate and more thoughtful of others. And that's actually what helps them be in recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to come into treatment or into recovery. It's a pride swallowing shitstorm.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to swallow your pride and say, yeah, I got to do that better. And the most important part that I think for every addict and alcoholic is to look inward. And actually, part of the process of the step work is to actually look inward and see and call yourself out on your own problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if I'm pointing fingers at someone and saying, you've got this and you're doing this and you got to look at that. They're not going to do it. It's when we look in ourselves and we say, man, I keep doing this wrong, or this is causing problems for me and I need to figure out why. And that's when the change starts in us, is when we start being willing to look at ourselves in true honesty and go, yeah, I'm awful at this.
Yeah.
And that's why my family is running away from me and not towards me.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of the mirror scenario. You got to stand in front of that mirror and actually look yourself in the eye.
Yeah.
And have the conversation. And if you can't stand in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and talk to you, then that's the first step. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things for a lot of people that are addicts and alcoholics to actually do for the first time is look themselves actually in the mirror.
Right. Because they haven't looked at themselves ever.
Right.
For a long time.
For
They
a
look
very
at
long
their
time.
mouth, they look at their ears, but they're not going to look in their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't want to look at themselves and see
Yep.
what everybody else is seeing.
And see through that veil.
Right. So what are a couple other things that you see that are very common that you deal with on a daily basis?
I think the simple principles that are in the program, AA program, is acceptance. Every addict and alcoholic I've ever met has a problem with that. there's a lot of action that needs to go in this so that you can move forward. Because what we're doing when we're in addiction doesn't really work. We've
Right.
got tons of evidence to prove that.
Right.
Yeah. So acceptance is a really big problem for a lot of addicts and alcoholics. I didn't want to accept that my drug problem was as bad as it was. I didn't want to accept that my family wouldn't cross the street to piss on me if I was on fire. So I'd lied to them and manipulated them and gaslit them so much that the minute I opened my mouth, they'd stop listening.
Yeah.
And every time I'd say, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again, they would like cringe. And so we had to be, get brutally honest as an addict, as a person in recovery. We have to tell the truth always, best we can, and catch it sooner than later. And we have to accept life on life's terms, because we trying to manipulate, control things is just part of that behavior that doesn't serve
Right.
us.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Mikey. So you didn't do it. You've worked in recovery for 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-part question. What's your favorite thing about working in recovery? Second part is, why do you continue to do it?
Why do I say that again? Why do I work in recovery?
What's your favorite part about working in recovery, and why do you continue to do it?
I think the favorite part for me is, number one, working with the families. I love that I get the opportunity to not just work with the addict, but I get to work with both either the wife, the siblings, the parents, whoever, because it is a family disease. I mean, it affects everyone around them, and I get to see them, start working more as a team and getting connected to each other more, repairing those relationships. I also love seeing, there's those moments when you're working with someone and you're, whether it be a sponsor or a counselor, I get to work with someone and I get to see that light click on in their eyes when they get, a little bit of awareness about what's going on in the program or how they're going to do it. And just to see that light pop on, I mean, it's good to see the light in people's eyes, but it's so cool for me to watch that just like click.
Yeah.
And then it's like, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember my moment.
Yeah.
Why am I still there?
Yeah.
I mean, number one is I don't like change.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. And rearranging my entire life. I like routine. I like consistency. It gives me a lot of peace. And because I mean, the job's not that awful. I mean, I know exactly what I got to do at my job.
Yeah.
So I show up and suit up and do my job best I can. Sometimes, that's 40%, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
And it's comfortable and familiar. And that gives me a huge sense of peace and calm and consistency.
Purpose.
I've had a lot of inconsistency in my life, and it's really safe. Safety is a number one feature in all my decision making, and having that safety is important.
So from what I heard of what you're just saying, you don't get to just help one person. You get to help multiple people.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not just helping the addict, you're helping the entire family.
Yes.
In helping people, it gives you a sense of purpose and peace and calm.
Yeah.
And everything else.
And I'm helping myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Well, another question I have, Mikey, is you say part of the things that you enjoy is working not just with the addict and the person there in the facility, but the families. So with that statement, what words of advice do you have for the people that are in the family that are possibly listening to this, that know they have somebody in family having an issue, don't know how to begin helping them? What are some things you would give them as advice to kind of start down that path of showing them they care and they want to help?
Attend an Al-Anon meeting would be huge. Learning boundaries, appropriate boundaries with your loved one. Don't do anything for them that they could do for themselves. Stop supporting the addict. Only support recovery, not the addiction.
Okay.
And just figure out what that is for them. My mom actually gave me one of my felony charges because I was committing a felony in her house using a computer in her house. I was mad. How dare you? You're my family. But that felony is one of those things that kept me in check while I was in drug court. And it actually kind of gave me the opportunity to start doing some work. And I'm grateful that that was there. Because if I had just checked the box and moved on, Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, I was angry at first, but I mean, having boundaries to protect yourselves and to do the right thing for the family members is tough. Um, having being a parent and telling your son or daughter that they can't come in the house, you're not welcome here anymore. Knowing that that means they're going to go couch surf or they're going to go live on the streets is probably one of the most difficult things to experience. And sometimes that's what has to happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's asking the question, is what they're doing going to hurt them more if they continue?
Mm.
Is it going to hurt me as well? And those are the questions you need to ask yourself. That gives you that answer of, I need to make a hard decision and make that phone call to the police or have that conversation, because if it continues, more people are going to get hurt.
Boundaries are about protecting me.
Yes.
So I set a boundary with someone just to protect myself, regardless of what the impact is on anybody else. It's for my safety.
Yeah.
And parents, that's a hard rewire for a parent because they're always focused on supporting and controlling and helping and managing their kids. That's their whole life. I mean, that's what they're told to do. Make decisions for them, help them, show them the right way. And when it comes to addiction, that kind of all has to kind of go sideways a little bit, because you have to start making decisions that keep you safe and keep you, sane.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of like, well, I'm sorry that sucks for you, but this is what makes me stay alive.
Yeah. Keeps them in that safe situation.
And finding the balance for that for a parent that's tough.
Right.
So, my heart goes out to every parent that has to put up with someone like me.
Well, and with that too, nobody's boundaries will look the same.
Right.
Everybody's boundaries have to be based on your needs, your beliefs, the other people that are involved. Like you were saying earlier, addiction is just not a one person disease. It is a disease of everybody in that person's life, because it does boil over into all aspects of their life and affects everybody at some point in some way.
Absolutely. I used to say all the time, I'm not hurting anybody. It's my choice. It's my life. It's my body. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. I mean, my mom would sit and cry for hours and it would ruin her day every time that she heard something that I was doing. And I definitely, like I said, none of my siblings would cross the street to put me out on fire. They'd bring hot dogs and marshmallows and like, burn, baby. They were so pissed off.
Yeah.
And it hurt every single one of them down to their core. I mean, that's an important thing, is that my recovery won't look like anybody else's either. So just like my boundaries aren't the same as everyone else, my recovery is going to be different.
Yeah. The steps to get there are similar, but it's kind of the path that you go up those steps that is going to be different for everybody.
A lot of that's because we all have different core values. They're similar, but some things are more important to me than they are to you or to them. And they're going to operate from those core values and live their life the way that they feel that is best suiting them. And I can't mask someone else's, because I'm going to get a false sense of myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a kind of a limited kind of controlled happiness.
So on that note, and this kind of goes back to how we started off the show with gratefulness, but I want to ask you, in your recovery for you, what has been the biggest highlight as far as I'm recovered? Was it that first year where you finally decided, wow, I'm doing this? Was it a relationship that got put back together? What is a big highlight that stands out to you in your recovery path?
Which one?
It's good you have many.
Yeah. My gratitude list is massive. Coming from nothing and having almost everything that I could want. I mean, sure, I want tons of other stuff, but I spent my whole life trying to acquire funds, money. Money and prestige and power was one of the main goals of my pursuits. And now I don't care. I mean, I've lost that desire. In fact, I find it repulsive. I spend money recklessly just because I want to and because I can, it's just something that's baffling, because I can think back to where I was and how selfish and rude and disrespectful I was when it came to my money and financing and trying to get more and me. And losing that was such a powerful experience. And realizing that, like I said, people trying to claw their way through life. When I stopped digging Stop clawing for things. I just let life be as it is. That's been a huge piece. I think finding passion and purpose is important, and not just a single purpose. You need to find different areas that give you, something.
Yeah.
And I think once I found something to give me passion other than drugs and alcohol, because trust me, I was very passionate about that stuff. And I was also passionate about being a criminal.
Yeah.
I had a lot of pride, a lot of confidence, a lot of, investment into that. Like I said, I wanted to be like John Gotti. I wanted to be a mob boss, and I wanted to, lie and cheat my way through everything. But having a purpose in life and something to be passionate about, which usually bleeds into more and more things to have passion about, just ends up kind of being fulfilling in the lifestyle. You're just like, I feel grateful that I have all these options now.
Do you think that as you find those purpose driven things in your life, they all kind of coincide then? Like one will always lead to another, to another, to another, and kind of keep you on that similar path?
In a way, yeah, yeah, they do. I mean, I having a passion for something definitely led me to open my eyes, because I was pretty close-minded. Being able to have a passion for something put me in an environment with people that would open my eyes to other things, and that opened me up to more and more. And so I wasn't so single-minded and so isolated into my thoughts and to my experiences. And it just kind of cracked open the egg and allowed the world to explode for me. I think that that's one of the most important pieces that made me keep going. It was easy to say, "Hey, I'm actually might be happy, and what happens if I try?" But then when I found a purpose of what I want to do with my life, and a passion of what makes me feel satisfied, happy, and connected, all of those things, and then I found another piece of that, and it just keeps building. They may not always be connected, but they certainly are opening my mind to the possibilities in this world,
Yeah.
you know? And then I just have to find the courage to keep pushing.
Well, and it's so part of my recovery journey over this last little bit was we started this almost a year ago.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty close when this idea came into our head. And so this was the first little piece. And as this has evolved, some of those things for me of taking me down this path and take, this other path really excite me. All of these things that have come out of this first piece that I kind of put my heart and soul into.
Mm.
Do you kind of feel like when you got licensed as a counselor, do you kind of feel like that was a similar experience of now you had this passion, you had this focal piece, and life started kind of unfolding for you?
Yes, in a way.
Okay.
I think that it was a different path for me. And the job itself is minor in comparison to the other benefits that I've gotten from it. Um, I'll use an experience. A man that used to work and is one of my mentors to work with me. Um, he actually sat me down and had a conversation with me that really shifted my gears a little bit. And I would probably 4 or 5 years into recovery when he did this, and basically kind of pointed out that I had a lot of potential and talked about the true north concept, moving me forward in a direction that makes me the best version of myself, and talked about my responsibility to myself to actually do that work. Small pieces like that, conversations with people that changed my perception, that changed my awareness of life and everything, were more powerful for me than the job itself is.
Mm.
I mean, the job is a paycheck, and I can do that. I can do my job pretty much on the streets. I mean, I won't get paid for it, but I do it in
Right.
the 12-step rooms all the time.
Yeah.
But having those relationships, and for me, most importantly, the conversations that bring meaning
Mm.
to the struggle. As I go through life, I meet people and I sit down and have a conversation with them, and they say something that really kind of clicks. And that gives me insight on the work I need to do, because I'm never done.
Yeah.
That is so amazing because that is one of the biggest things that I feel that we've gotten out of this podcast
Mm.
is the conversations and the ideas and the knowledge that we get from it that
Mhm.
just kind of tend to shift little ideas in our head or shift little values and things like that. So that is so beautiful how you put that.
Thank you.
It's kind of those unexpected rewards
Yeah.
when you know you're going to go to work every day and you're going to get a paycheck. That's a given. That's going to happen. You're going to get paid for being there 8 hours, but it's all these insights, these experiences that you get to have with these people. That's the real reward at the end of the day. It's kind of what I'm hearing you say. That's where it is.
That's the meaning of life.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, really. And I mean, I'm only as good as the people I hang out with.
Mhm.
If I surround myself with a bunch of jokers, then guess what? I'm going to fall into that. I'm very susceptible to peer pressure, no matter how much awareness I have. I am a sucker. And if I hang out with people that are really powerful and mindful and loving and caring, then I do hopefully will glean some of that, and be able to be a better person time after time. And that's the point is I try to find people that are, that have a high level of trust and honesty and vulnerability. And if I can be around people like that, and, I always see myself, if I'm not equal to them, I'm definitely below them because I want to learn. If I start thinking I'm better than, and I put myself in the better than box, I limit anything I can gain or learn.
Yeah.
And so I
Like
always
that.
try to find myself as a little bit below shoulder, eye to eye level. I want to look up to people,
Mm.
because if I don't, then I never find my mentors, my guiding lights,
Yeah.
my people that are important.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. And it's being self-aware is a huge part. And that's something you definitely learn on the recovery path is how to be more self-aware, because now you know that if you surround people around you that are a bad influence, you're going to follow because you've learned that
Yeah.
peer pressure is one of your things that it's hard for you to say no to. So it is that self-awareness that makes a huge difference in your life as you kind of learn what that is and learn more about yourself, having those hard conversations with yourself.
And it's hard because there's a lot of people out there that aren't the best for me, but they're like, I'm like a moth to flame to them, still.
Yeah.
There is an attraction to that, and they have positive qualities that draw you in, but then you realize they're not loyal. They're not, honest. They're not vulnerable. And so once they show you their true colors, you're like, okay, I got to readjust here.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process. That's part of the experience, get out there, give it a try.
Okay. I love that. So we've got just a couple little quick questions to end this on. And one that has been bouncing around in my head this whole time is, what is some of the best advice you received on your recovery journey that still sticks with you today?
Well, that True North one was a really powerful conversation because that actually got me to start looking about, I'm not just checking boxes. I'm actually working to improve myself, and I'm only the one responsible for myself. And that shifted a mindset of like going through the motions or actually doing some work, internally and externally at the same time. Um, Another one that was really, I mean, the old man that told me I was happy, that was some really good advice. I wasn't hearing it at the moment, um, but it also, I think for me, just that I'm not all that, just having the humility to realize that I am just a cog in the machine,
Hmm.
and my job is to do my job. Right? I don't have to take on anybody else's problems or any other issues. And knowing that I can be okay alone. Like I don't need people to be around me all the time. I can be okay to function on my own and still be happy. But I'm much more happier when I'm around other people. But knowing that I'm okay
Yeah.
because I wasn't for years. I was always looking for validation and control.
All of those things you
Yeah.
strive for when you're in the addiction itself. Yeah.
I've got a question that's really going to make you think, Mikey.
Okay.
Okay, if you could sit down and have a coffee with any person, past or present, in history, who would it be? And what question would you ask them? Told you it's going to make you think.
Yeah. I don't know. Past or present, who would I like to sit? I don't think I have an answer for that.
Yeah. You're fulfilled with all of life's questions.
No, no, I just don't know how to choose who would be, if I mean, this is if I could sit down with one person, I guess the answer that comes to me right now would be my younger self.
Ooh, that's a good one.
If I could sit down and talk to myself, I don't think I could say anything that would shake that little shit out of doing stuff that he did,
Uh-huh.
but I think I would like to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Be able to at least give them some insight that you've learned over the years.
Or just kind of see what's going on in that kid's head.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would be something that would intrigue me, is to sit and have a conversation and see, because there's a ton of my youth I do not recall.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a whole year's, a year is completely gone, except little teeny snapshots.
Oh.
And I wonder, like, where? Oh, I was living there, but what happened for all the rest of that year? It's just, there's a lot of blanks.
Must
Yeah.
have been asking them what was going through their head at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that though. That's a great answer. I guess the final question I have for you is there a piece of advice to anybody listening that is still struggling, is going through the recovery phases of their journey, that you would give to them?
Well, number one, you're not the first one to go through it. You're not alone.
Mm.
There are people out there that can relate to you. They can tell you it's worth it, but that falls flat to an addict.
Yeah.
In the early days. I think the most important is that there is a way out, and like I say, you're not alone. People have gone through this before. No matter what it is, whether it be mental health or substance abuse, there's a path.
There's hope.
Yeah. And the second thing I guess I would say to every addict that's out there, I lived in a lot of shame and guilt, and I would just say that relapse isn't failure.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, it's a defeated mindset. If I should have a relapse or a slip, then I have to throw everything away. And I didn't learn how to ride a bike the first time I got on it. I didn't learn how to do anything else in my life on the first shot. I'm really a slow learner, which means I get to make mistakes, and that's okay. And I think that we learn a lot in recovery, and we learn a lot more in relapse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it just, if you have a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
I really like that. I mean, all those bumps and bruises and trips and falls that you have along the way, just take mind of them, learn from them. Don't let it, be the defining moment in your life.
Yeah. And addicts are the most resilient people in the world when they let themselves be.
Absolutely.
They've overcome something very, very hard.
And through their addiction, they've been creative and innovative and very precise, and they're geniuses.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skills in addiction that you learned that you didn't think you could take into recovery, but they're there.
Yeah.
And it's just like a Star Wars quote. I mean, you're either in the light or the dark side, so
right.
You can use all those skills for positive moods.
Yeah. Well, and I don't remember, I want to say it was Josh Brolin that said this, but I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on it. But the quote is you are an alcoholic not drinking in a world that is putting it in front of you every day. You've overcome the biggest struggle of your life. Everything else now is just a learning step and something easy because you have done the hardest thing out there.
Yeah. Give yourself a break.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, this has been awesome. Thank you for sharing your story today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I really hope that everybody listening is, taking the time to listen to what you've said and think about the people in their lives and the different experiences that they're going through, and be able to take some of this information from your experience and apply it to them, or have that hard conversation that maybe they've been putting off because they haven't set that boundary yet, or any of those things. It's been really inspiring. I mean, from what you gone through to what you're doing now, 17 years doing it, helping people get through those hard times in their life.
Being right on the front lines.
Yeah. And we've asked the question a handful of times here of what superhero power and stuff would you be? And really, that's a superhero power to me, Mikey, what you're doing every day. It takes a lot to sit there with these people in the space that they're in. And for you to continue to show up every day for these people, continue to give them hope, guidance. I mean, that's my hat's off to you. It's absolutely amazing. And I thank you for all the work that you're doing, because not everybody can do it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mikey.
Yeah. Well, everybody, again, it's been a great episode here. We hope you turn in next time. We appreciate every single minute that you're able to spend with us throughout the week. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you share, comment, tell all your friends and family about this episode, especially the ones that you feel need to hear it. And if you have any questions or want to reach out, please hit us up on our socials, reach out to the webpage. We appreciate every single one of you. We love you and hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.